Hey everybody, recently David Yu was invited by Binance to do an AMA. It was great, and by the way, have you ever wondered the original founding story of VeVe? No, it's not Dan and David created the VeVe app. It's deeper and much more interesting than that. David mentioned that story in the AMA and also a new technology that I believe will bring the values of our collectibles to an unbelievable height. Not financial advice, of course, but this technology is getting more popular every single day. It was also the topic of my first ever YouTube video. And I won't be surprised if it get applied to our collectibles in the next few years. It's going to be very interesting. Let's get to it. Over the past week, I listened to the AMA between the guy from Binance New Zealand with David. Have you had the chance to listen to it?
Only the first 20 minutes.
It was really good. There are three, kind of like 2.5 takeaways that I got from it. The first one is the story behind the foundation of VeVe, like how VeVe was founded. So we've been with VeVe for 2 years, over 2 years now for me. And I was like, well, we all know that Dan and David kind of started the company, right? But why and how? So within that interview, David talked a lot about how, and that conversation with Dan that started everything. That was a really good story. Basically, back in New Zealand, David has always been an entrepreneur in the collectible space, physical collectible space, and he has several retail shops and a website too. So he does both brick and mortar and e-commerce as well. And one time, David and Dan, who've been doing business for a long time and are good friends, they talked about what else they can do with David's collectibles because he was selling them and they were trying to figure out what kind of new benefits, new utilities they can add to these toys and collectibles to increase their values. Because for decades, physical collectibles have been traded the same way. Like it will come from a toy factory or the IP to a retail store, and then you will sell it to the end consumer. So they were talking about the benefits of blockchains like security, authenticity, how it can prove digital products to be unique. So they thought that they could digitalize those collectibles that David was selling in his stores and create a market for it. It's a very interesting story. So that was the theory for business, right? They had that idea and then they had to prove that this is a feasible idea, that there's going to be demand for it, that people were willing to pay for it. And then David mentioned how he noticed that the folks who came into his store to buy stuff, they're not like kids. A lot of them are our age or even older. Like there were a lot of doctors, working professionals who came to the store. And apparently those people have disposable income and you cannot quantify a hobby or a fandom. If you're a fan of Marvel, you just keep collecting Marvel collectibles. If you're a fan of Pokemon, you grow up watching Pokemon and then you collect these trading cards, right? So he saw that everybody is a fan of something. Deep down, people always want to have that fandom in them. They want to be connected to a community, a fandom, because being connected to a community defines who we are, like whether we know it or not, right? For me and for you, we are basically VeVe collectors or VeVe fans. And that's been our identity for the past 2 years. And he also went to like Comic-Cons and anime shows, and he saw how these adults would dress up as their favorite characters for the whole weekend. So he knew that the demand is there, the money is there, the potential is there. It's just that the process of onboarding people from collecting physical collectibles to collecting NFTs or digital statues will be very challenging. But if they were to do it successfully, and I think they have, then they are basically the front runner in a whole new category. So that was the idea. And long story short, since 2017, they started getting brands onboarded. And one very powerful statement that David mentioned in the whole interview that really opened up my mind was like, VeVe onboarded DC, Marvel, Disney, Pixar, Universal Picture, MGM with the 007 onto the NFT space. And, you know, it's like one statement, but it's pretty crazy. And all of these brands who are used to competing with each other, like DC and Marvel, are onboarded to the NFT space by the same company, by this little startup started by 2 guys, maybe 3 with Alfred Khan in New Zealand, you know, and I think that was pretty mind-blowing. Hey guys, just a quick message. Every week I, Mr. V, work over 20 hours to bring you the most non-BS VeVe content. English is my second language, and there were nights we recorded until 1 a.m. my brain stopped processing and I naturally spoke Vietnamese to him. And it got pretty weird. But that's just how dedicated we are to this podcast. In return, we ask you to enter a gentleman agreement. We will continue working into 1 a.m. for you, but we ask you to subscribe to the podcast, leave us a rating, and tweet at us to tell us what you think, because those comments will ultimately help us to refine the content just for you. That's it. That's all you need to do. Let's get back to it.
That's fantastic. So I was listening to this interview with a former Disney exec.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yep.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And he was talking about how when Iger was the CEO, like maybe the mid 2000s, he decided to bring on or buy out, what was it, Fox. So like they got The Simpsons, right? Bought out Marvel, Star Wars, and they were just bringing on all of these huge IPs and under this umbrella of Disney. When the company and many other people were thinking like maybe Iger should be directing his attention towards some of the other what they already have, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they've got, because in that same interview they were talking about how they cannot cycle fast enough through all of the characters and all of the possible films and renditions of these stories that are being retold and in a new way with new, you name it. They just can't get through it fast enough. And then they decide to bring on all these different IPs under their roof. That's some crazy multitasking. And just thinking about that is overwhelming. But to think about how VeVe was able to absorb all of those different possible characters and IPs under Disney's umbrella, plus DC, plus Universal Pictures,
and
plus,
not fucking it up, right? And not messing things up.
that's 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 like mastery level work in terms of being able to present something and sell those different companies on it.
Yeah. Imagine like we can take like Spider-Man, which came out in the 60s, or Superman and Batman, which came out, I think, in the early or late 20s. Like, right, imagine DC and Marvel spent almost a century investing billions of dollars building this global fan base from generation to generation, and then trusting a tiny company in New Zealand. What if VeVe were to mess up those drops, like what if they minted too many? What if they got hacked? What if they abused the IP? What if they were to have this huge scandal with the OMI token and then have that red flag from the SEC and then have all of those products destroyed, right? And then that would be a huge embarrassment for all these gigantic IPs. But they did not mess it up at all. I know that they have many challenges that they are trying to overcome. But just thinking about a statement like we onboarded XYZ, like DC, Disney, Marvel, Lucasfilm, Pixar, USPS to this new space is extremely powerful. So that's that. That was very interesting to me, although it's basically like common sense now. The second concept was that I feel like David was very mindful about that onboarding process too, because the interviewer asked about what David was thinking about the sport category, because other brands like Autograph or NBA Top Shots or even DraftKings have came out with their digital collectibles in the category of sport, but they ultimately fail in creating that demand. So how would David fix that? And David pointed out that one common mistakes or weakness that he saw other brands were doing is that people would come to the app to collect the most popular athletes, right? Let's just talk about sport as an example. So people would come to an app to collect collectibles from, in soccer, it might be Ronaldo or Messi. In basketball, it might be LeBron or Kobe Bryant or Jordan, whomever. But then these brands would make the NFT version of those athletes so exclusive that they are so expensive and are out of reach for the majority of collectors. And VeVe doesn't want to do that. That's why we are seeing so many editions of Spider-Man or Batman, so these characters that resonated with millions of people. If these characters are known globally, then many people should be able to get them, especially if you want to onboard new users, right? If, tomorrow, for whatever happens, VeVe can onboard 10,000 new users, they come in and the majority of them like Spider-Man because Spider-Man is the most popular superhero at the moment. And Spider-Man only has I don't know, 2,000 editions on VeVe, and each of them cost 5,000 gems, then the majority of these new collectors would not be able to get this collectible that they want. Therefore, they leave. David doesn't want to do that. He wants to have different types of rarity, like the secret rare and the common edition with 32,000 mint, so that anybody, regardless of their budget, regardless of their fandom, whether they're new or not, can still have these collectibles. And I think that is a very thoughtful approach to handle fandom and to handle sport and in other category as well.
Yeah, then there's that issue of finding the sweet spot based on the user base
Right.
nowadays, because I'm not going to throw out numbers, but there's clearly a disconnect between the edition sizes and the demand and the number of available active users, right? Because we were talking about that before. So it's finding that sweet spot is something that they have yet to accomplish for most of, let's say, the recent drops. But I'm hoping that they work things out, and maybe the marketing that they're gradually working on will allow those things to sync up in due time.
I actually love it. So regarding the mint size, I actually love it when there is some significance tied to the total mint size. For example, like the partner statue has 4,333 editions available. So we all know that 33 number is huge for Walt Disney. And I think, if I can remember correctly, there's some significance with the total mint size of the Lamborghini drop as well. So I know that there needs to be that balance between supply and demand, but I thought it's really cool how there is some stories behind these total mint size too. So that's that. The next concept that I thought was really interesting is how David mentioned having artificial intelligence installed into these digital collectibles. Are you familiar with ChatGPT?
I never looked into it, so please.
It is this very powerful artificial intelligence tool backed by this company, built by this company called OpenAI, and it is backed by billions of dollars from Microsoft, and it is extremely smart. It can talk to you like a human being, a very knowledgeable Google. So in the past, I have used it to do research, to help me to write better code, because I use programming languages all the time, to help me to explain very complex concepts. And it'll probably take the whole day to explain the benefits of ChatGPT to you guys. So if you want it, you can try it out. But David's point here is that all of these artificial intelligence tools nowadays, if you have time to try them out, and I think you have to try them out, they are extremely powerful because they can mimic person-to-person conversations really well. So they have all of these raw data put into them, and I have no idea how to explain it, but it's very powerful. It's like you talking to Alexa, but it's not like, hey, Alexa, tell me the weather. This is like you having this kind of conversation that we're having with Alexa. That's how powerful it is. So it's like, hey, Alexa, can you tell me about the weather? It tells you the weather, right? And then you kind of interact more with it. Like, oh, can you tell me about the events that are happening on a day-to-day basis? What do you think about this event that happened yesterday? Can you tell me everything that I should know about VeVe Collectibles? That kind of conversation. So it's very powerful. So my point is that in the future, and this is very, very doable and applicable, it is very easy for these brands to install artificial intelligence technologies into these digital collectibles, into the Spider-Man, the Miles Morales, the Todd Batman, so that these collectibles can actually have conversation with us. And these are not like Alexa, how's the weather conversation. This is going to be very in-depth, very complicated, very casual, human to human like conversation. And it's going to be very powerful. There's going to be some downsides with it because, we don't want to talk to technology all the time. But I feel like, and this is funny because the first VeVe video ever that I ever created, I talked about this concept of how kids nowadays, and even us when we were younger, we have these superheroes. Like my favorite superhero growing up was Superman. And these IP have spent a century building the image for these superheroes, and we listen to them. Like we all know that, oh, Spider-Man, Captain America, Superman are there to do good things. So these characters have a very strong influence on every one of us. And Well, it's that influence is one thing, but it's also being extremely close to the superheroes and the fictional characters that you grew up loving, right? Like for me, I've never talked to, I don't know, like Mickey Mouse, for example. The only way that I can kind of interact with Mickey Mouse is when I go to Disneyland and I see these people dressing up in a Mickey Mouse costume. So I take photos with them. That's the only interaction that I have with Mickey Mouse. And then I would see Mickey Mouse on TV, YouTube, whatever. But then now imagine talking to Mickey Mouse about whatever, like, hey, what do you think about, I don't know, like, what do you think about
Minnie
the
Mouse.
Minnie Mouse? What do you think about the new outfit of the Minnie Mouse? Do you like the 2023 outfit of Minnie Mouse, or do you like the 1928 outfit of Minnie Mouse? And what are the differences between the two of them? AI technologies today, and especially ChatGPT, are able to answer that question, and they are able to provide you with very in-depth, very thoughtful answers that will probably blow your mind. Especially, that is a very, very good question to ask AI, because they recently had some changes to the costume of Minnie Mouse. Because in the past, like the I don't know, like the 20 to 30, well, back in the late 20s, early 30s, or like even up to the early 2000s, if you look at Minnie Mouse, you would see her with like a very short dress.
Sure. Yep.
And you would see like her basically underpants, right? But then Disney decided that, well, for this generation, that kind of looked kind of offensive and it's not culturally appropriate. So we decided to give Minnie Mouse a new outfit. So now, and I will share this article with you and some photos, because they actually changed the outfit of Minnie Mouse. So now she's wearing like a pajama. But that will be a very good question to talk to Mickey about, you know? So my point here is that there's a lot of applications that can come from installing artificial intelligence to these digital collectibles. And ultimately, it will bring us one step closer to these characters that we grew up loving. And this kind of new connection and communication level will be absolutely insane. It's going to blow people away.
It's kind of freaky to think about, because
it's very freaky. It's very, very freaky.
I remember growing up, if we wanted to talk to our favorite characters, like you said, you'd have to go to a theme park to be able to talk to them or take a picture with them, or you would have to, or your parents would have to hire somebody to come in a costume. And
yeah,
you know, like if you wanted a Power Ranger or Barney or a Captain America or whoever you wanted to come to your birthday party, they would come in a costume and all that stuff. So that's some next level stuff. Question for you. Do you know if this AI tech would also be able to see, do you know if you could use it while using other software or websites? So like, say for example, if people have the intent to use this AI tech to, hey, like you give directions, hey, can you snipe this collectible on the market when it shows up? Or would that be considered a script? You know what I mean?
At the moment, it will give you a script. It will
Okay.
absolutely give you a script. And it's not going to be tailored to VeVe in particular, because this technology doesn't have much data about VeVe, and VeVe as the application itself is very centralized. It's not an open source product where AI can directly go to the code and writing script for it. No. So to answer the question, it can give you some general guideline on what a sniping script looks like, but it's not going to be able to do anything for you yet. I actually used ChatGPT to write me a couple really good Twitter threads. So one time it was Walt Disney's birthday, and I asked it, hey, can you write me a short paragraph about Walt Disney? And it gave me a really good paragraph, like he was born on this date, this year, in this town, in this state. And he worked in animation before he founded his own company. And the first character was XYZ. And then I was like, can you write me a Twitter thread of 5 things that everybody should know about Walt Disney? And it actually gave me this amazing Twitter thread that detailed the 5 most interesting things about Walt Disney. And then I used that. I just copy and paste that into Twitter, and people thought that was written by me, and I actually got quite a bit of interaction for that AI generated content. So it's very, very powerful. I know it's very early. Have you seen the movie Her?
Yes, I have.
The guy with the headphone, whatever, the earphone.
And then
talks to his
yeah, and he
talks to
becomes
his kind of like fake girlfriend.
yeah, that's
That
creepy stuff.
that's it, right? Like that is what I was talking about. And it exists today because there are so many tools out there that will act as your personal assistant, which is what ChatGPT is. But some of them will also be programmed to act as your girlfriend or your partner or whatever. So it's very powerful. There's a lot of risk associated with it, but the potential is limitless. And yeah, I think it's gonna change a lot of things, especially digital collectibles, because in the future, again, people will be able to talk to the Spider-Man, to the Supermans, to the Darth Vader on a daily basis, and it's gonna be a huge game changer for digital collectible, and it's very, very easy to apply. Think of this: you like if you play any game like Fortnite or whatever, underneath the skin, like the skin is what differentiates the different characters, right? But underneath it, it's just one thing. Like it's one this one character, and then you just put different skins on it and give it this different animation. For AI and the digital collectibles, think of the digital collectible as a blank canvas, and you just put AI in it, and it's extremely easy. Yeah.
Maybe we could ask, was it ChatGPT?
Yeah.
What the first Minnie Mouse collectible was.
Yeah.
You know, like what's a true FA, and see if we get an answer from it.
Well, right now, the data that they use to train it only goes up to 2021.
Oh, no kidding.
And yeah, because there's a lot of data involved, so they are constantly upgrading it with new knowledge, new training data. But as of today, for that particular application, ChatGPT, which is basically the best on the market right now, it only has training data up to 2021. So it knows what VeVe is, but it doesn't have the super recent data on Platinum Platinum Minnie Mouse.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's very cool stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm curious what boundaries there are going to be, what parameters are going to be set for that are going to be in the best interest to protect the best interest of consumers and users of AI like that, right?
Yeah.
I hope that the digital collectible market is not negatively impacted, but at the same time, like this could be fantastic for onboarding new users as well. So like I guess coming full circle, you said that David was mentioning that these digital collectibles could have this AI tech integrated, and we could be
it's Siri and Alexa, but instead of having Siri and Alexa, it's gonna be Peter Parker. It's gonna be Bruce Wayne. Yeah, that's like the best example that I can come up with. But a lot more smarter and much more conversational than Siri and Alexa. It's very powerful. I hope there's gonna be some laws and protections to prevent the risk that AI can have on us, because yeah, it's gonna be very addicting to talk to AI all day, especially if you don't have much time to interact with your friends and family, if you don't, like, if you live far away from them, or if you, I don't know, like anything, right? So hopefully they will have some boundaries on this. But again, back when I first made that video maybe like a year and a half ago, this technology didn't really exist. So I thought it would take another 5 to 10 years. But now I'm using it on a daily basis, and I know it's so easily applicable to digital collectibles. I think it's going to be there sooner than we expected. So that's my second point today.
That sounds fun. Yeah. And I can't wait to mess around with that. I'm going to start doing that this week.
Yeah. That is it, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have enjoyed the episode today. And if you have, remember that gentleman agreement. We will continue working until 1 a.m. just for you. But in return, we ask you to subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss out on the actionable and valuable insights, everything VeVe and Omi related. Don't forget to give us a rating and tweet at us to let us know what you think about the podcast so that we can refine the content better just for you. Thank you so much. We hope to see you again next time. Peace.